Hello, everybody. Welcome to Movie Talk. I think it's tempting whenever you see the Oscar nominations, no matter who it is, what year it is, whether your favorites were nominated, it's always tempting to look at it as you would a really bad call by a referee. Like, come on, ref, you can't be serious. And I think this year's no exception. There's certainly a lot of noticeable snubs. People have pointed out that there weren't any actors of color for the second year in a row that were nominated, but I'm not totally surprised to see Will Smith not nominated this year. I think for the fifth Best Actor slot, it was always going to go to Matt Damon for The Martian or Johnny Depp from Black Mass, and I'm kind of surprised people seem to think that that's a snub. Much more notable, in my opinion, was Idris Elba from Beast of No Nation as Best Supporting Actor. I am surprised about that one. But first, let's go to what the Oscars did right, because they did do a lot of things right. Most of the Best Picture nominees are truly exceptional. In the animated category, you have Anomalisa. In the cinematography category, you have probably The Revenant's going to win, but they also singled out Sicario, which it should be there. So there's not totally a lot of wrong calls, but I think where they really go off track, for me at least, is in that Best Supporting Actor category. And I think that's probably the most questionable of all of the categories, because a lot of people that I really wanted to see nominated, none of them were. You had Idris Elba from Beast of No Nation. You had Michael Keaton from Spotlight. You had Jacob Tremblay, the little boy in Room, who did such an amazing job. Benicio del Toro from Sicario. So there really weren't any nominees that made the final cut that I probably would have voted for, and I'm kind of scared that Mark Rylance from Bridge of Spies, he's won a lot of the critics' prizes up to this point. A lot of people seem to think he's going to win. But I really wasn't impressed with his work in Bridge of Spies. I've seen him on Broadway. Of course, he was great in Wolf Hall on television earlier this year. But everything I've seen him in, he's been better in than Bridge of Spies. And his spy is a little bit too mannered. He's a little bit too passive. And I'm kind of surprised that people seem to think he's the front runner, especially when last year you had J.K. Simmons from Whiplash, who really dominated that category and really deserved to win. But his runners up to him were Edward Norton from Birdman and Ethan Hawke in Boyhood. And I think any of those people, if they were nominated this year, it would be a better choice and would probably win. I think it was a lot stronger category last year than it is this year. This year, out of the nominees that are nominated, I like Sylvester Stallone for Creed, and I like Tom Hardy for The Revenant. It would be nice to see Stallone win. I mean, he was really good in Creed, but Tom Hardy, I think if anybody's going to win besides Mark Rylance, it may be Tom Hardy for The Revenant, and he probably deserves to. I mean, he makes a truly memorable villain in The Revenant, every inch up to competing against Leonardo DiCaprio in that movie. But some of the other nominees, like Christian Bale in The Big Short, I wasn't really even that impressed with his work, and I kind of felt like Ryan Gosling did a better job in that same movie, a more memorable job. And then the actor who did get nominated from Spotlight, Mark Ruffalo, I thought was the worst performance in the movie, and Michael Keaton was a lot better, and I was kind of surprised to see that. So all in all, not a great category, and I would throw it out. And if I included Sylvester Stallone or Tom Hardy, I would also replace the other nominees with, as I said, Benicio del Toro, Idris Elba, and especially Jacob Tremblay from Room. Really, I'm surprised that he hasn't been in the conversation more than he has been. But when we go over to the other categories, there's very few surprises. For Best Actor, you've got Leonardo DiCaprio probably going to win and probably should win. I haven't seen Trumbo or Bryan Cranston in that movie, but out of the other nominees, they're okay. Matt Damon was pretty good. Michael Fassbender was great in Steve Jobs. Eddie Redmayne was okay, I guess, in The Danish Girl. What's even more interesting is that even though the Best Supporting Actor category is full of surprises, the Best Actress and Supporting Actress categories are pretty much exactly as you'd expect them to be. For Supporting Actress, we're going to see a horse race between Rooney Mara and Carol, and also Alicia Vikander in The Danish Girl. They've never really faced off against each other because usually Rooney Mara's been promoted to Best Actress, so they've never had to go in that category, and it really could be either one of them. And that's kind of an interesting race because they're somewhat similar. They're both young actresses, kind of it girls of the moment, and I think really could go to anybody. For Best Actress, I can't see Brie Larson, who was amazing in Room. I can't see her losing. She'll probably win and probably should win. Saoirse Ronan and Jennifer Lawrence and Cate Blanchett, all of them were good, but really Brie Larson should win. Also, you've got the documentary categories, and for me personally, the biggest snub was that Merchants of Doubt, a great film that not enough people saw when it was in theaters, theaters, made the shortlist for Best Documentary, but it didn't go all the way through. And I'm not saying anything's wrong with the contenders that were picked. I definitely think Merchants of Doubt's better because it's a really great movie. It's basically about academics who are for sale. So it's any kind of scientist who'll sell their opinion to an oil company or a cigarette company or even food, lie about the health effects of a certain type of food or damage of pollution that's being done to the environment. So I would have liked to have seen that make the cut because I definitely think it deserves to. But all in all, if I had to really make predictions, it's really too early to say between Best Picture. It could be Spotlight or it could be The Revenant, so we'll get into that later. But for now, I just want to say a quick word about, even though they weren't nominated, Idris Elba was still great in Beast of No Nation, and anyone who has Netflix, they can check that out. And I think that that's part of the reason he wasn't nominated. Not so much because of any racial prejudice, but I think people have platform prejudice, which is basically that they weren't really rooting for Netflix. This was Netflix's first original movie that they made and produced, and I think that they weren't quite receptive to it for that reason. I think if it had been made by a regular distributor like Fox Searchlight, I think you would have seen it do a lot better.